So you've got a job where you can have RuneLite on your second monitor. Congratulations! I'm sure this doesn't affect your productivity at all. There are a few things we can do to make RuneLite even more AFK and finally get started on the project the boss gave us last week. A big issue with staying focused is not having an entire screen devoted to RuneLite, but it is nice to be able to glance at something and get some information just to make sure your AFK is going well. For example, if I want to AFK Abyssal Demons, I need to make sure my prayer stays high, but if I am staring at the screen the whole time, I'm probably not going to get much work done. We can use the Picture-in-Picture plugin to shrink the screen to a corner of our monitor, but it still has the HP and prayer bars just so it doesn't drop and I die. So I turn on the plugin and I get this little screen with the information on the sides, and I can drag it to wherever I want. This way, I can stay focused without dying during my AFK activity. This is a good start, but we can do something even better. Instead of having a little window constantly on our screen, we can have no window at all. No, I'm not saying touch grass. There are bugs in the grass, people. I'm talking about the force setting in RuneLite. Whenever you get a notification in RuneLite, you have request focus set to force, and RuneLite will just pop up. You can set pretty much anything to trigger a notification. For example, a cannon being low on ammo, having low hit points or prayer, or even certain drops and messages in-game can be set to trigger a notification. Your guy's just standing there, not chopping trees? Use the idle notifier and RuneLite will pop up. But now we have the issue of RuneLite being on our screen. Yuck. And that minimize button is just too much work. It's 2025, RuneLite. Minimize yourself. That's where the click to minimize plugin comes in. Here's how it works. You type the action that you want to minimize the client. Right now, AFKing at work, I like to go for easy clues, champion scrolls, or making some battle staffs. So these are my 3 actions. For the wealthy citizen, I have my RuneLite notify me when somebody is being distracted. And then I click on the distracted citizen and it is minimized until another citizen is distracted. It's a nice way to stack up on easy clues throughout the workday. For champion scrolls, I get a notification when my cannon is out of ammo, so it forces my attention, and then I click on the cannon and it just minimizes itself. Or just some good old bank skilling. Have idle notifier on and this is a breeze. On the topic of working from home, fishing is a pretty popular activity. Everybody already knows about Kromwans, the spot that never moves. A good way to get the heron pet, and one of the best hard foods. But do you really need over 80,000 Kromwans? Instead of AFKing Kromwans, we could AFK anglerfish. Anglerfish are very nice as a pre-pot for several situations because they will overheal you. The issue here is the spots move. Not very frequently, but they still move. So we just have to click at random and hope, right? Well, not quite. If a spot just moved, it's less likely to move compared to other spots that have been there a while. But if we're AFK fishing, we don't want to focus on each spot that just moved, so how do we know which spot to click? Well, there's a plugin called NPC Idle Timer that lets you know how long an NPC has been standing in one spot. The fishing spot functions similar to an NPC named Rod Fishing Spot. So we can just type that in and it will count down from when it moved. You can set the countdown to whatever you want, but I just use the default 300 value. Clicking on the higher number fishing spots will tend to get you longer AFK times. You can use this for any fishing spot as well. So if you're AFKing sharks for the Big Shark Collection log or something else, you simply change the name to what the fishing spot is called. That's enough about AFKing. Let's get into some more exciting things. As I'm sure you're all aware, you can customize what your left click action and your shift click action do. For example, at this house portal, I can left click to go inside of my house, or I can shift click to go into building mode. You can customize these options on pretty much any menu in the game. Just hold shift and right click and you get a menu to customize them. Some items, I'm looking at you Max Cape, have so many options. There are multiple options that I would love to access from one click, but how do I do that when I need more than 2 choices? This is where custom menu swaps comes into play. There's a section to set up additional hotkeys that function just like the shift key, but they're a different key.
Wow!
For example, I can click on my max cape to equip it, or I can shift click on my max cape to teleport to my house. But then I can also hold X and click on my max cape to teleport to the crafting guild. I can hold C and click on my max cape to teleport to Hasidius. I could set up more if I wanted, but I think you get the gist of it. We are just beginning to scratch the surface of this plugin though. There's another option called Inventory that lets you set up a use hotkey. This becomes really nice for me in a lot of raids where I end up sipping from a couple of different potions. I don't want to switch my shift key to use because I still like dropping potions, but now I can hold Z and combine my potions into 4-dose potions very quickly. Speaking of raids, in chambers, bosses drop a lot of items and so do scavengers. If you want to be quick, it's best not to wade through the right-click menus. You can customize which items appear on top with custom menu swaps. For example, in my duo CMs, I know I need to be quick about taking my prayer regen potion and overload, and then my wife grabs the other two. Overload normally is the option that appears on top, so if I spam clicked, I would pick up 2 overloads and ruin the raid because my wife and I are both irons. So, to fix this, I set the prayer regeneration potion to be on the top. This can also be used for some chill skilling methods. Take these iron rocks, for example. If I wanted to mine multiple at a time, I would have to move my mouse, and that's just too much work for me. But if I simply type mine iron rocks into the plugin, what happens is that option takes priority over mining the empty rock, so I don't even have to move the mouse at all. This next plugin should be illegal, I think. A common practice for raids and Coliseum is uncharging your shadow and then charging it again, but minus like 20 charges. This allows you to smuggle in Chaos Runes and Soul Runes into the instance with you. The Chaos Runes generally aren't so important, but the Soul Runes allow you to death charge and have all the runes for thralls without losing additional inventory space. Normally, when we charge the shadow, we have to calculate and actually type the number of charges we want in like a peasant. I don't know of any other plugins that do this, but the Charge Calculator plugin will calculate the number and type it in for you. It's nothing really game-breaking, and I definitely use this, but it does feel like RuneLite is automating something that probably shouldn't be automated. Speaking about things that should not be automated, in the Cox Addition plugin, there's an instance timer above your head. The entire raid goes off of this timer, but after you leave the entrance room, this plugin disappears. I think it's because Jagex doesn't want us to take advantage of using these timers to help with the rooms. Anyways, we can use the Visual Metronome plugin and set it to count to 4. So when you see the instance timer above your head reach 0, just reset the Visual Metronome. When the Visual Metronome says 4, that's the same as the one over your head saying 0. Using this makes things like the Vasa teleport skip just super easy, allowing you to deal more damage and take less damage. In a challenge mode raid, you normally have to be tick perfect after the Guardian room to correctly time this. But using our Visual Metronome trick, if I miss some ticks and I'm just not on it that day, I can just run off of this tile I have marked right when my metronome says 1, and I come back to that same tile and I'll skip the teleport. This Visual Metronome can also be used in places like learning how to tank Phase 3 of Verzik. She attacks every 7 ticks, so setting a metronome to 7 can help learning Theater of Blood at first. Don't train construction without this plugin. I'm actually sad for my wrists this plugin wasn't around when I was maxing. The Construction Quality of Life plugin looks very simple, and that's because it is. But it makes a single press work for multiple things. You already press 1 on the number key to get through the Demon Butler's dialogue and to remove furniture. Life is so much easier if you can push 1 for other options as well. Because I'm building mahogany tables here, this plugin allows me to set pressing 1 to press the 6 option as well. Now I just sit back and spam 1 until I'm 200 million construction experience. As somebody with a messy bank, I am forced to abuse the search setting. I use this button maybe 20 times a day. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a quicker way? This is a video about RuneLite tips and tricks. there's obviously a quicker way. In the bank plugin, there is a search shortcut. You can set it to be whatever you want. Now I can instantly access the search feature in my bank to quickly find my items. Speaking of shortcuts, there are a couple of other handy ones. OSRS is blessed to have the best wiki of any game. It's not even close. Get out of here with that wowhead nonsense. Instead of clicking on the wiki button every time I want to check where to get pink dye, I just type 9. The default key is Ctrl+W, but you can change it to whatever you want. And lastly, for the hotkeys, is the toggle chat button. I like to read chat, but I also get really distracted when I'm raiding, so it's best to just minimize it. This also hides the purples I get at chambers, so I can have some semblance of excitement in my life. The toggle chat plugin allows you to hotkey the chat minimizing. This next one is actually one of the few plugins that declutters your screen instead of cluttering it, and it helps a bit with PVM. Let's take a look at Alderan. There's so much stuff here to click on, but who has ever used this cancel button? It's just another thing for me to misclick on. Also, I like to examine things, but I don't need that option for everything I click on. If we turn on the No Examine plugin, we can hide both of these options. This makes some PVM things just a bit easier. If you have fewer options to choose between, it uses a bit less brainpower. Of course, RuneScape does have some of the best examine options of any game, so I like to leave on the bypass with shift option so I can still examine when I want to examine things. RuneScape is a bit weird in that your character isn't usually where it looks like he or she actually is, at least when you're moving. That's why a lot of people like to use the Tile Indicators plugin to see where their character actually is. I do think it's just a bit jarring and takes some of the magic out of the game to think of yourself as just a moving square. And I think a lot of content creators agree with this. You'll see a lot of people run around with just the corners marked. You can accomplish this same thing with the Corner Tiles Indicator plugin. I personally use this plugin, but you'll notice in a lot of my clips, the corners just aren't there. That's because I use the fade out option on the current tile to make it disappear. For me, this makes me feel less like a tile in the game world, but I still get the advantage of knowing where my true tile is. This brings us to the last tip for this video. It might sound a bit complicated at first, but I promise you it's easy. There's a pretty popular plugin called Resource Packs. There are a ton of different themes you can set and customize your UI, just really make it look however you want. But you may want some features from multiple themes at once. Luckily, we can pick and choose which elements of each theme we want. I would recommend either starting with a theme that's mostly what you like, or starting from the base layout. Check out some of the resource packs and find elements you like, either how the prayer looks, or the colors, or the icons, just really whatever you like about the pack, and note them down. So let's say in the purple pack, I like how the combat styles look when they are selected. I'll just copy them and put them in the resource pack I want to use. So let's say the kitty pack. I'll just paste those ones I copied and have them replace the file names. It's very important they replace the exact file name. Once you get the pack looking like you want, you'll copy the address and paste it in the resource pack path. And under Use Resource Pack, select the path that you want to use instead of the hub. After messing with it for a bit, this is how mine looks. I've got my buff bar neatly next to my inventory, and my prayers have a pretty cool background, and then I have a custom red click that does a little swirl, so my yellow clicks are normal, but then the red click sticks out a bit. This is just another way to customize your game, but keep in mind things like the info boxes or elements on your UI can be resized and moved without the need for a resource pack just by holding Alt and dragging them around. I hope you all learned something new from this video. As always, a like and subscribe are greatly appreciated. I hope you all have a fantastic day.